Welcome to our first of the big three services. You know, we're getting so busy now, we got to jam launch into 3 weekends. Isn't that awesome? The parties never end. We've got so much to do over the next 3 weeks, but we're pretty excited about it. But before we go any further, I wanted to ask a very important question. How was your summer? Short.
Short.
But isn't that it? That's how it always is, isn't it? Some of you look just amazing. You've got such a great tan. You've lost so much weight. You've added more hair. You've got new. It's just amazing how summer looks, isn't it? Man, I just love this part of it. When we reflect back on summer, listen, my summer was great. It was busy. I did some physical labor jobs that I do not have the skill for or the strength. And they're almost square. I love that. We had a real beautiful family reset. It's always great to do that. I don't know if you've ever...
Family reset, is that like when you get a new family? Is that how that works?
Sort of. Yeah. And the trade-up was amazing. Trade-up was amazing. Getting together, sometimes just the busyness of our life, but there's things that we do during summer holidays that we just maybe can't do all year. Sometimes that's weather, or sometimes that's because you're in Kelowna and you've borrowed your brother-in-law's jet ski. Do you know how fast they go? Little Farah, the other kids, they're at the age of faster. Farah's I think we can do this, but she still wants to ride on the front. So completely encompassed with dad and 52 kilometers across big fat wakes. We hit a bump so big, which was so thrilling for me, and her head hit my mouth, cut my lip. And she says, "Dad, that was amazing." I look like I've come through a UFC fight, but it really was amazing. I like to get one good recipe in the summer. I was able to pull off a stuffed pork tenderloin with spinach and a couple other beautiful magical things that were great.
I was with you until you said spinach.
Oh, I know. You got to hide the vegetables somewhere for your kids.
True story.
So that worked really, really fun. But you know what was so amazing? After not only 11 launches, but 11 attempts of fully organizing my garage, I did it. I did it. Completely empty floor, completely painted floor. And my wife has almost never been happier.
I was impressed. Every time I saw you over the summer, you either had glue or paint or oil or something on one arm or leg or something like that. I feel like it was a big job.
It really was a big job. And then, when I realized I had this big empty space, I decided to fill a lifelong dream. And I got a pool table. Unbelievable. I've been waiting for years. But there's something tragic about this moment. I got what I wanted in the space that I could only put it in, which was my garage. There's something about being stuffed outside to your man cave. Man caves are supposed to be in the house. Now, it's out of those. And listen, I got to say.
I'm really impressed with this picture as well, by the way, because, a lot of people won't realize this, but I do a little bit of kind of tech help with you on the side.
A lot.
And this is the best iPhone picture I've seen you ever take. So I'm really impressed. Next week, we'll move to people.
Oh, that would be great. I have to say, you look fantastic. I know you've had a very busy summer as well. And this whole training, you just keep looking better. You're going faster than ever before. You're like a superhero. I love it. Tell us about your summer.
Yeah, well, we had a good summer. We spent a little bit of time in Hawaii. Managed to leave just before the hurricanes hit. And then we spent a week in BC, but that was after somebody set it on fire. They're suspicious it was people from Alberta, something about, pipelines. I'm not going there. But I took on a coach this summer for the first time in my life. I took on a sports coach. He is a world record holder, right? He's based in Alberta. He holds the world record for the fastest ever 50 miles on a treadmill, which he did in 4 hours and 57 minutes. So he decided that he was going to sort of put me through my paces and try and get me in shape. I got a big race in October. It's called the Grizzly Ultramarathon. It's 50 kilometers in the hills of Canmore. So that's what I'm kind of training up for.
So a grizzly race. This is like they do in Europe. They release the bulls and you run. So you're going to be chased by grizzlies.
No, although apparently in years gone by, grizzlies have joined the race and improved the average time. Ironically enough, it's actually called the Grizzly Ultra because their main sponsor is the Grizzly Paw Brewery in Canmore. If you finish the race, you get a free pint of their beer, which for a lot of people answers, why would a Scotsman run a 50K race? Now you know.
Well, so many of you have been recharging like myself. There's something happens when we just step back a little bit and we have a little bit of a reset and we give God room, who is such a creative force, but we let him be a part of, participate in our creative spaces. Our Visional team has been working hard over the last couple of months, looking at our data and how it intersects with what we believe God has asked us to do and what we believe the future holds for us. It's really quite something. You know, for me, there are times that I believe that we just have to pull back. I even think of our summer. You know, there's sometimes big holidays and there's a lot of work in that. And it was amazing that we had such great results out of such really little effort by pulling back and doing a little bit less. There's something about the tension in that is really unique, that we pull back because we want a little bit more force, back force, to catapult us forward into what we believe God is desiring for us. Our founding DNA here at Westside has been drenched in creativity, and I still believe that creativity is God's way of keeping the life message of the gospel available, and it is more necessary today than ever before. You know, it's amazing. 2 years ago, I mentioned, and we shared up here, we took up an awesome gift of your generosity for some of our building changes, and we had a washroom ready to go. And you know, it's taken us 2 years to figure out where it can fit, how it can fit. And in that duration, I was getting antsy. We need to get this done. This needs to be, it's difficult not running without it. We don't like the message that it speaks by not having it. Yet, in the patience and the waiting, in the tension of the moment, suddenly so many other things have come together. And as you see with all of the construction, it is way greater than we would have originally started out and planned out doing. And that's an incredible part for us.
It's fascinating as well for us to watch, particularly as leaders, where you feel that sense of the stirring of God as to this is what we really are feeling for Westside's future. And then you've got compliances like an all-access, barrier-free washroom. So you've got like kind of rules and regulations to meet. And then we've done a lot of survey work and tables, people's houses and meetings and conversations. And for me, what's beautiful is it's all thinking together. Yeah. What's stirring in our hearts was really strong in so much of the survey data. It seems to be what's stirring in your hearts as well. So it's beautiful to step into that, to believe that God's hand is guiding us. Last year, we set out a different project for Westside in the past, where in our teaching, we rooted ourselves in Romans, and we spent a whole year trying to get to grips, I suppose, at some level with the depths of this gospel of grace. And my hope is that what that's done is set us in some good foundations for this year, where our teaching focus is really going to look at following, about being disciples of Jesus. And for everybody that maybe wonders if I'll ever stop talking about Paul, this year I'm going to root us in Mark's gospel. So we're going gospels this year. So all those people that said I prefer Jesus to Paul, if I didn't win you over last year, don't worry. This year we're in Mark.
Love it.
And I want to talk about Mark just very briefly, because Mark begins his gospel, I think, in really stunning fashion. He says this in chapter 1 and verse 1, the beginning of the good news, or the gospel as some translations say, the beginning of the good news about Jesus the Messiah, the Son of God. And then he jumps straight into the prophecy. As it is written in Isaiah the prophet, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord and make straight paths for him. Like, I love this for a start. If you're used to reading a gospel, you're kind of like, wait a minute, where's like the donkeys and the wise men and, stables and Bethlehem? And it's almost as if Mark wants you to know something. What matters here is you need to know Jesus is here. He doesn't spend so much time with that early stuff. He just gets straight to it. And the gospel, however, and it struck me as I was reading this text and thinking about us this year, the gospel needs preparation. Somebody's got to make a path. Somebody's got to make a way, a real straight path. Everything we do in life, I think, requires somebody else to have done something before us. There's always somebody been working there. Westside King's Church is 25 years old next year. So we sit here this morning and do everything that we do because somebody else was doing something else. And even if you go back 25 years, the start goes further because of other influences and people working together. People bought this land. It seems our government are doing something to make a straight path outside at the minute. Or I think you thought maybe it was a bike ramp or something like that.
It's a grizzly race coming close to here.
They're definitely making a mess. And but our heart this year, as Westside King's Church, is to wrestle through how do we find our way closer to Jesus? What does it look like to be a good disciple who works on following Jesus down this straight path? But also, what does it look like to be the type of people who can then make a way for others to intersect with the gospel? just a couple of weeks ago. In fact, it was last week. Sorry, just last week it was. I was in my other temple, the Apple Store in Market Mall, and and I was in there, and we go as a family pilgrimage once or twice a month, and I look at technology I'd like to buy and can't afford, and my daughter plays on iPads because she loves doing that, and my wife just patiently waits for us as we geek out on this sort of stuff. And so anyway, I'm looking. Actually, I was talking to Tyson's brother, our former youth pastor. He works there so that, what great parents, kids in two godly ministries, one in church and one in the Apple company. So I'm talking to him about some tech ideas I had for Westside, and he was helping me out. I'm keeping one eye on my daughter, and I saw this little girl, same sort of age as my daughter. She was pushing an empty wheelchair, right? Which my first thought was, I wonder where the person that's supposed to go in the wheelchair is. I almost went and said, hey, we have a great new washroom here at Westside. If you're interested, you can access now, but didn't feel at the right time. And so I saw her in the store, and then a few minutes later in my kind of periphery of my sight, I saw her outside the store still with this empty wheelchair. And then it was time for us to leave. And as we left the Apple store, I now see this girl again coming towards us in the store, but this time she's crying her eyes out. Like she's just a mess, right? And tears everywhere. And so I'm in that kind of awkward moment where I'm very aware I'm a kind of old, unshaven guy, and she's a little girl, and I want to help, but this could look like, the beginning of one of those kind of crime watch shows that you watch. So I'm a little nervy about this, but I decide, let me help her. So I crouch down next to her and go, hey, what's wrong? And she just wails out, I've lost my mom, she says. And, and you think, goodness, when you're like 6, a mall must look like a scary place. So I said to her, in that kind of, way that I think you're supposed to, I said, hey, listen, don't worry. I said, we'll find her, right? I said, you're safe with us. We'll find her. So I thought, wait a minute, I'm sure I saw her in the Apple store, so we'll go back there. So we go back into the Apple store, and I talked to one of the guys at the front door, and he says, oh, wait a minute, I saw you here just a few minutes ago. I think your mom is back at the Genius Bar. And, they only call it the Genius Bar because they're very good at getting money out of you. But I don't know actually what else they're genius at, but so we said, okay, so she's like becoming like kind of incoherent now. She's crying that much, and then I finally had this moment where I said to her, oh, maybe she knows it. I said, hey, do you know your mom's telephone number? And she like spits out this number at me through kind of tears and snot. She kind of goes like 403 507. This number comes out rapid, so I punch it into my phone, and as I dial it, I look up and you see this lady walking towards us with a similarly panicked look and her phone in her hand. And the little girl sees her and just lets out this wail that was so unbelievably deep. Like this one, a really deep wail. And then the funniest thing, like at least now that she's safe, she lets out this wail, goes, Mama, she says, and then she starts giving her mom a lesson. Why do you think you'd gone? I was completely lost. I didn't know when I was going to find you. And it was a beautiful moment, and I was a bit of a mess myself because naturally as a father, you start thinking, goodness, if this was my own child, what must it be like to be lost for that sort of time? And I just had this moment with probably just me and the Holy Spirit afterwards where I felt like, man, this is what we're talking about being as a church. There's a little girl who's lost. And the fascinating thing is she got lost far earlier than she realized she was lost. Yeah. And most of us realize that in life, don't we? That when we become lost and when we figure out we're lost are not the same times. And then once you realize you're lost, panic starts to step in and you start acting irrationally. So she'd clearly just been going up and down outside this mall with this empty wheelchair. And it took somebody just to stop and say, hey, can I help? Yeah. And then I was just so moved by the sense, the only thing I could think to ask her was, do you know your mom's telephone number? And it was the only thing she knew. I do know my mom's telephone number. And this was my thought. I do all the sort of things in my life. I have a lot of contacts with people that don't necessarily follow Jesus. And something maybe will happen at one day in their life where they realize they're lost. They realize, I don't know what's going on for me in life. And I found myself thinking, what if I was the only telephone number they know? What if in the midst of their lostness, and think about that in your own life, what in the midst of your friends and family's lostness, when they get to a certain point where they realize, I don't know what the next move is. My prayer for us this year is that we become the people that somebody goes, I am lost, but I think I know who can help. Yeah. It's Jack or John or Terry or whoever it's that goes to Westside. They told me they went there. I'm going to go and I'm going to jump in on that. Because we've got to make a straight path. But making a straight path also means putting ourselves in the place that people can reach out to us and we can invite them on this beautiful journey of Jesus' grace.
you know, it's interesting. I'm starting out this fall, more convinced than ever. I've always been convinced of it, but when you start to watch it so regularly, I'm just convinced that God is always working around these pathways of intersection for us and other people. That Jesus on his journey, he stopped, he allowed for interruption. He caused so much chaos everywhere he went. As people in need had to find him, they had to get to him. They broke every rule to make that happen. And when you look at some of the storylines, we have worried fathers with illness in their kids or issues. We have sexually broken. We have people that were sick, and we even have criminals that were finding their journey around him. Lots of things happened in the middle of the journey as he traveled and as he went about his business. And I just think that it is our role specifically to get in the way of other people. And we know that's complicated. We know that takes effort. We know that interrupts the routine of what we do. But there's something about getting in the way. Back to the pool table. I mean, it's just so amazing. And it was free. You were rubbing off on me. I normally would just buy it and figure it out later. There was a cost involved, and when I told the lady in Red Deer, Sue, that there was a bit of work of setup and other costs, she said, now listen, I have a deal for you. It has to go because Dad has early stage dementia. So if you will commit, we've had a lot of no-shows, if you will commit to coming to get it, it's free. Do you know what free is? It's free. But you need a friend, because I don't know if you know this, but inside that pool table is 3 pieces of slate. You need a friend to help you.
You need 2 friends.
You need 2 friends
so
to
you
help
can direct
you
2
with
friends.
slate to point where that needs to go. Now, the problem with my personality in moving a pool table is the fact that I assume that a chainsaw will solve everything. So if we cut it in pieces and I can glue it back later, I'm sure it'll work. So I needed a Wayne. I've been hanging around with this ex-Calgary Police Services man. What a great police officer he was. He's retired, and he is handy. And he is wanting to grow in his faith. And we are just walking the journey of life together. He's like an older dad, older brother. I just love him. So I called him. I said, Wayne, we got to go at a pool table. We got to move slate. So we get down there and we have coffee all the way talking about stuff, and right away he brings every tool you need. He's got it all measured and cornered, and he's got it all categorized. I'm going, this is amazing. Very slow. The chainsaw would have been so much faster, but we've got it all done. And the people were so thankful. And here's Dad and Mom together, and Dad's in early stage dementia, and this was his pool table. This was out of his pool room, and he's being moved out of his house, out of the country. And I was feeling for that. I thought, this is his, man, what a beautiful place. So we get all done, and I thanked them, and they were up on the deck, daughter-in-law and son, and Mom and Dad. And I said, come on, Wayne, come on up. And I said, I want to say thanks. This is going to go to our family. The memories are going to now, transition to our family memories. But I said, we want to pray for Dad. We want to pray. And so we just jumped in, held hands old school, and prayed for Dad, who is losing home, heading off in a place that he never thought he would be ending. And of course, losing his pool table to a guy that's going to treat his family and be a part of that. You see, our faith, I'm convinced of this. It just has to be around every place of our life. We don't just do it Sundays. We don't just do it when there's a moment. It's when it arises. And was there anything more beautiful than watching Wayne, big tough cop, holding arms and praying together with these people? That's what our faith journey is all about. God puts these little intersections as we listen.
Yeah, and these little moments, I think, rest on all of the work that we've done. And I was thinking about this, a year ago today, we launched our last journal, and we put this picture on the cover because we said we feel like there's a frame, but we got to do a lot of work. So in the last year, theologically, I think we've tried to do some foundational work to get in and make sure we're resting on a kind of tough frame. I think that our theological solidity is important as a church. Also, our theological safety is really important. Like, there's a commitment from us at Westside that whatever we do is not going to be crazy theologically. It's going to stick. You're going to be able to find the Bible and go, yeah, I see that it says that there. That for us is important foundational work to create space for the prayer moments. But also operationally, there's been incredible stuff going on behind the scenes at Westside this year in terms of operational structure, fiscal responsibility, procedures, processes, all coming together, I think, to give us something that now that we look at this frame, we go, okay, what else are we going to do?
Well, it's very exciting when we see the visible changes, and we need to talk about those this morning because it's incredible how it has formed itself. Now, there's lots of little changes, but we're going to hit the big ones. We call them the big three, and I love that. And it's ways for us to understand what we have heard and how we have listened. You know, it's when we asked and started to move forward a year ago in data, it's the board's responsibility to learn from the congregants, from how we work. And we have listened. We have really worked through all of the pieces. We've had meetings. We've connected to over 200 Westsiders in dinner meetings to, again, learn and grow as we move forward visually from today on. And it's excited to know that these three things have just in a great way have all lined up together with some other parts that we thought of before, but now seems to be the moment in the time.
Yeah. So shall we?
Let's unveil them.
Let's do it. Okay, so our first major change that we're excited to talk to you about this morning is Sundays and how we're going to change them. There's a few changes. Actually, we've been a bit sneaky. We say it's 3 changes, but actually I think it's 3 changes. With each of them, I've got about 2 or 3 sub-points. So we're kind of sneaking in a few changes under the one banner. But we want to do a bit of work on our Sunday services. And the biggest thing that will impact you immediately that we're changing with our Sunday services is the times. So as of the 23rd of October, our service times are now going to be 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Simple one-digit numbers to remember. Well, apart from 11, that's 2. That probably is a little bit easier than our previously slightly complex numbers. We know what it's like. You think you know what time church is on, and you turn up, and it turns out it was a different time than you'd remembered. I still meet people that have been coming for 10 years, they say, to the 11:45 service, and you go, well, we don't have an 11:45 service. We do have an 11:15 service, and if you come to that, you get worship too. But, you know... But we want to create some different times, and there's a lot of stuff going on. You'll notice we've been doing some restructuring over the summer. That's largely to sort of expand our space so that we can all fit in within 2 services. We're also going to make a little bit of a change to how the services run. We're going to, a commitment that Westside's had for a while, and perhaps we've not always been great at, is to actually try and do our Sunday morning service within an hour. This service is excluded from that. And in order to help facilitate that, again, because we want to be careful with people's time, one of the things we're going to do within these services is actually take our coffee break out. So the coffee time will now be before and after the service. We've been looking at the data and we've been watching people movements, and by and large, a lot of people are telling us we don't really use that space anywhere. It's not long enough to connect with people for a proper conversation. It's kind of really just short enough to kind of run to the back and come forward again. And the vast majority of people aren't doing that. So we want to kind of basically focus our services. 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. They'll be focused together with a priority on worship and teaching, and then that creates space around our services to do a little bit more relational work. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that, Bobby?
You know, one of the greatest parts that I love about church, always have, there's something in the coming and going where I believe God connects us to people. And I think that as great as video podcasts and audio podcasts are, it's not the same when we connect with people. Oftentimes as life is going, there's things that we learn, you know, directly even on a Sunday morning. But there's an activity of caring, sharing, having a relationship with people that Jesus modeled himself. This is how we do it. And I want to say this, Westside, you know, for 10 years, I want to say that you've been amazing. Amazing, even long before us, that this facility, we've made it work, but without a foyer. This old rink has no foyer, and you've done an incredible job at you know, tight line spaces, and we've had tents and heaters and all kinds of ways to try and generate around an ability to have conversations in 2s, 3s, and 5s, and you've done really well at that. But we think we can do better. Oftentimes it's just the chaos in between services that has been very difficult for us.
Well, it's true, isn't it? In order to try and make space for us as a community to move with one another, it's so hard. We get to the end of the service, we go, hey, share with someone, and but leave quickly because we've got another service starting. Just as you're getting into a good conversation, the music starts again.
Oh yeah,
it?
It's really something. We want to be sensitive to the value of weekly time, and you know, being around Calgary as long as I have, and understanding the cycles of our city. You know, it's different. Sunday is a really great day for us. We still have lots of midweek stuff, but sometimes it's just difficult in schedule to be able to work around that. And we want to make sure we do our very best and efficient with our Sunday morning working time. And we believe we can get better at doing the whole idea of togetherness. And in the data, it said that you want that. We want that, and you are now wanting that. And so we want to work together. This idea of middle space is kind of significant. It's because it's different. So if you think this through, we have a 1 hour service time, we have a 1 hour middle, and then another 1 hour service time. And the idea of the 1 hour in the middle leverages us to do things that we normally would not be able to do. Most churches can't do it because of that time switchover. But we think we can move into sub-teaching moments, prayer times, focus connections. We think about the opportunity that so often is missed when it comes to things like baptism, baby dedication. These are significant moments in the journey of followers. And so many of you bring their friends. We always are up 30, 40 people on those weekends, and we can barely say hello to them because of the way the transition and the traffic is Sunday morning. So in making more space, we see that we as a staff, as a community, as leaders, as friends, can intersect with people. Oftentimes you have friends that aren't going to do the faith journey, but they'll sure do the baby dedication journey, or they'll be a part of your baptism moment. And we want to be around them. We want to be connected into that part. When we think about the sub-teaching groups, there's stuff that we think is incredibly valuable. Our youth team, 2 years in a row, have done the best effort I've ever seen at helping coach parents on dealing with the internet. And because of the time slot to do it, we have promoted it, we have pushed it, and we've not been able to get more than 30 parents in a room over this. It's tough, schedule and busyness and the way it works during the week. So something like an event like that, we would offer that in our middle space. We would say, hey, when you're looking at the calendar, don't forget that after the first service is dismissed, you can stay later for a few minutes for a 25 to a 30-minute presentation. You can come earlier, and all of a sudden we have a center point piece that now we can give you the information that we think is valuable. Sometimes that may be an extra part of a seminar, extra part of a teaching, deep dive into something that we've already talked about. But the middle space leverages us for lots more things to do besides the gift of being able to communicate one to another as we build a relationship. Sometimes even the idea of prayer. Prayer is vital for us when we need to be caring for other people, but those moments can linger on, and as they linger on, which they should, we need to have space to be able to do that, to be able to be a community.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting for me when we look at our data, and you look at what's happening and data around the world of churches. People will connect to church, a great service will connect them, they'll enjoy it if they come from the first time, but the ability to build relationships is profoundly important. So I love the fact that having created physical space to try to get everybody in across these two services, we then actually have also created time space so that people can connect with other things and other people. I think it's
so funny. You know, you're just such a smart group. How many people have come to me and said, I really like the bistro. Bistro means coffee. Coffee means bistro. How come we don't have coffee in the bistro? Because we're not as smart as you. But we just love how it's laid itself out. It gives a lot of opportunity. So often there's times that we need to be there's extra conversations that just need to take place. I love it when I go in the back in between services. Someone's, are we allowed to be here? We just want to talk and share about this morning, and we just met each other. I'm thinking, that's what it's for. Yeah. So we have pushed that, leveraged that to move forward, and we think it's going to be an incredible part of what we do. We've created this for you. So come early, stay late, meet a friend. You don't need to go to Starbucks after. We have it right here for you. But this is how we're going to journey in our faith together. And as I said earlier, we need to get in the way of others. And we need to build new relationships, because that's important. Yeah. And we also need to strengthen the ones that we already have. The second one, I mean, Sunday Change is going to be great. Love that one. But the second one is probably pretty significant because we have heard from you. And I think this is one of the most exciting things for a church leader to hear. Your data said that we want to grow. Do you know there was times in our past where we had that as part of our data, part of our questions, and the response came that said, we think we need to grow, but we don't have time, we can't, or we are not interested. That's discouraging for a leader. But the new data has said, we want to grow. We want to grow with you, want to keep growing. We love what's happening, we want to keep going. And we're excited about the word discipleship. Discipleship. You see, the Bible is clear that our mandate is not only growth by numbers, but also growth in the depth of discipleship. And as we continue to have more leaders, and our church continues to find a greater level of health, maturity, we want to continually be growing along our steps in the journey. And we're excited to offer, for the first time ever, coming up March 1st to the 3rd, 2019, is our Discipleship Leadership Weekend. We have never done this. This is a brand new idea, and it is for teams, leaders, and all of you. It's for everyone. And we have a very special, talented guest, and he's coming from the UK. Dr. John Andrews is going to be with us for the weekend.
Yeah.
Tell us about John and him joining us.
Yeah, so John has led several churches in the UK over the past 20 or so years. He was a Bible college principal for a time, authored several books. Part of the reason I wanted to bring John to do our first ever Westside Leadership Weekend was actually the main reason is not the church leadership and the principle of Bible college and the books. It's actually if anybody spends any time with John. I don't know anybody that can spend 5 minutes with John and not come away from it thinking, I really want to follow Jesus more. And so for us, it seems like strategically, he's the right person to bring in to say, hey, this is what we're doing. I mean, we're really blessed, actually. There's something about what's going on that Bobby and I are finding at the moment behind the scenes. There's a lot of really interesting voices who are wanting to connect with Westside and be part of our journey. We were really blessed last week to have Phil Odd, who's doing some incredible work in University of Calgary. I'm excited towards the end of October, the final weekend of October, just next month, we have Andrew McCourt from Bayside Church in California. Massive multi-site church, 20,000.
He's still trying to figure stuff out, isn't he?
20,000 people gather there on a weekly basis. He's going to be teaching for us at the end of October. So we really are privileged for the input of outside voices that really want to see Westside grow, and we're excited about that.
You're being too light on this one, so I'm just going to have one other piece.
Okay.
I want you to see the beauty that oftentimes churches become insular, they become arrogant, they don't want to listen to anyone else, and we know that that is the slippery slope of the death of an organization. And somehow, outside of us, God is just bringing people, and it's almost becoming quite humorous. Right. These incredible, talented people, but for some reason along the journey, they're revisiting us again, and we are so excited. Sometimes it's Skype media, it's Toronto, it's UK, it's California.
Yeah.
And we don't know how this is. We don't fully understand the timing of this. We don't understand. We know God is in this because we haven't chased this, and this is what we're excited about in such an awesome. Hearing all of these other stories and the way that they can impact us. See, this is the ability for us to be able to grow and to lead. And as we continue to grow and lead, as us as leaders grow, as you grow with us, there is something about increasing the room, the pathway for more people to come with us. That's what growth looks like. That's what discipleship does.
Absolutely. And therefore, and we're not just trying to do like a weekend conference or expose ourselves to other voices just purely for the sake of it. But one of the things we want to do and why we want to strengthen our biblical basis of our leadership is because, and this is something we saw hugely strongly in the latest survey data that we got from you, was that people are looking for further opportunities to grow in community and followership of Jesus, which to a pastor is just the best news ever, that people want to get to know each other better, journey well together, and grow. So in the spring of this year, we're really excited to announce that we're going to be launching what we're calling Westside King's Church House Churches. This will be a network of house churches in living rooms across the city. We wondered about what to call these. Some people talk about cell groups, life groups, small groups. I was uncomfortable with all of those names because terrorist organizations use them. So I kind of felt like that was probably sending a mixed message. But in the New Testament, they talk a lot about people meeting in each other's homes to share life, to do life, and do discipleship together. And so we're working on some really great resources that will be sort of given out to all of these leaders, and these home groups will connect with an opportunity to journey together and learn at the same time. So if you're interested in joining or hosting or leading a house church, then please do reach out to us. We've got a lot of work to do over the fall, getting ourselves set up to that, but we're really, really excited about that. And then finally, the third thing that we want to talk to you about this morning, because it is Launch Sunday, is our new journal. For the past 8 years, Westside King's Church has produced a journal. I have all 8 of them here on stage. There you go. Some of you might have a similar stack at home somewhere. I don't know if I was tempted to test Bobby and just randomly select series from one of these last 8 years and see if he can remember what any of those teachings were about. But then I realized this one here that I did is your favorite. So yes. I absolutely love the concept of organized curriculum learning. A lot of churches, their learning kind of is a little bit random as to how they process it. And one of the things that attracted me to Westside in our early conversations was the dedication put to plan out a teaching year and then to put it in this journal so that people can reflect on that learning. I love that. However, our survey data says that 60% of you don't love it. Only 40% of people in one of our surveys said that they actually use the journal. And I was a little vague on what I meant by use, like doorstop, coffee mat, something to hit bugs with in the springtime. I wasn't entirely sure. But I'm still absolutely committed as a teacher to this idea. I think it works. So we were talking behind the scenes and thought, maybe there's more we can do with our journal project. So perhaps it's time for us to move the journal into a new era. Could we take all of the things we love about the journal and also add to that all of the things that God is doing in us and creating space to help us prepare for that and develop that together into what I'm now kind of referring to behind the scenes as Journal 2.0. And Journal 2.0 is available for you today on your App Store. So you just need to grab your phone or your tablet. If you have an Apple device, you just download it from the Apple App Store. If you've not yet found Jesus and used something made by Google, it's also available. It's also available on the Google Play Store. So it's for Christians and non-Christians alike. That's too far?
I love it. 100%.
The app is there. It's free. You can download it right now if you want to. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do with it. Just download it and play with it for a week. Next week, we're going to take a little bit of time in our service as we launch our new teaching year and kind of talk you through sort of how some of the bits and pieces work. But let me just highlight a couple of things as to why we're excited about it. The app now has the ability to download our sermon notes. I notice in every single week that I teach, people getting their phones and iPads out and taking pictures of what's on the screen. If we throw up a quote or an idea, you see people taking pictures of it. And I often wonder, 20 years from now, as you're looking through your photographs, you're like, why are there so many pictures of a screen in a church? But what we're going to do now is prior to the teaching every Sunday morning, all of that stuff will be pushed down onto your phone. It'll be there. You can read the quotes. You can take notes alongside the sermons as you're listening in. The app also has a journal in it, so you can, instead of just one page for every sermon, you can actually keep a daily journal. We're going to be having reading plans, so when we're running particular teaching series, there'll be an option to connect with a daily reading plan that'll help guide you alongside sort of thing. The app has a Bible built into it. So you no longer do you need to you forget your Bible all the time. The Bible in 30 different translations, including, I think, the Spanish in there, if you really want to just really take it up a notch while listening along. But the Bibles are built in there, and you can read those Bibles and listen to those Bibles because they're audio Bibles as well. So you can actually listen along in your car. All the podcasts, both audio and video, are also there on the app. Really great news. You can also give directly through the app. So you know that old excuse, I was going to give in the offering today, but I left my wallet at home. Like, nobody ever goes out without their phone, so that excuse is over. Okay. Now we can, but yeah, so all of this is there. You can engage with it. So download it, have a play with it, see what you think, and we'll be rolling out a few other features of it over the next few weeks, and we'll talk about it a little bit more next week.
I love, the one thing I do love about our smart devices, I love receiving, you'll get a text thinking about you, you'll get an encouragement, someone will send you a funny story, or here's something, I've got something that came in this week, and I just love getting those things. And I think that when you're in the middle of a service and all of a sudden something's going on, you say, I want to be able to send this to a friend, you can do that right away, and I think that's significant, because that's one of my favorite parts.
All of the teaching, all of the sermon notes, your own personal journal notes, you can post
Send it
online
right off.
or send to a friend. Or
Send
anything.
to a friend and connect it. In fact, even this week, I found out that I'm going to need some hip surgery. I've been processing that. I'm excited to meet a surgeon, and somebody sent me the greatest encouragement, and that's what I love about this church. Exactly, and that's the kind of encouragement we are looking for at Westside King's Church. It really is amazing, especially as God is leading us. And when we think about people outside of our own arena, people that we are connecting with through work. And when they're telling you about a story, here's what I'm walking you through. Maybe the invitation to church is too quick. Maybe that's too much right away. But all of a sudden you can say, hey, I know that what we've been talking about, this is what we're actually learning when it comes to our services together. Have a listen, or here's a quote. I hope this encourages with your day. That's the ability with our technology that is so helpful. Man, David, thank you for all of the exceptional work on this. This is right in your sweet spot, and we absolutely absolve you from too much time at the Apple Store, because that's what makes this stuff great. An app to make the straight path come together. I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. And we're excited that the journal now does have that. It has the ability to be evangelistic as well as discipleship, which we're really, really excited about.
Westside's history has always been committed to finding fresh ways to reach and connect to new people. I could say it in this service, met some amazing people in our earlier service, from just a friend that's been walking on a journey with someone, and they walked in the door for the very first time. And there's so many of those stories. That's just not one. But today was her and her family's first journey with us. And that's part of our commitment. We want to make sure we do our job well so that you can do your job. We do it together. And we bring our own friends. We have our own networks of people. And we think that's an incredible part, because we want others to find that surprising grace of Jesus. Today we start our fall launch with so much excitement about what God is doing and how much he cares for us. He speaks all the time, and he speaks to people that we didn't even think about as we journey together. New times, a deeper focus in discipleship, and tools that we can take towards all of the people that we come in contact with. Our prayer is that the changes that we are working on this month will be part of that making the straight path for the gospel to take place. And we are incredibly excited about that.
That's beautiful. And so one more thing just before you go. You'll have seen posters dotted around the building over the last few weeks. Posters with these little cool hero characters hiding on them. And so as you leave the building today, you're going to be given one of these. These are a set of trading cards that we've had done, which we thought was pretty fun, for 10 different type of heroes. So the challenge is, can you collect all 10 before next week? So you may need to mug someone in the parking lot, steal someone's stuff out their Bible or something to get that. But these trading cards are all advertising our new teaching series, which is starting next week, which we're really excited about. It's called Hero Maker. There's a trailer going to launch for that on our website and also on our social media, and as well as in our app this afternoon. So you'll be able to do that. For now, I just want to ask you to grab one of these, because it does have the new service times on the back. Remembering next week we're here again at 9:45 and 11:15. Don't come at 9 next week. You'll just end up being in the band. So next week's 9:45 and 11:15. The week after, we launch into our new service formats and our new service times at 9 and 11. But we'd love for you to catch one of these and really get excited about our new teaching series that starts next week. For now, why don't we stand for a moment together before we leave. And let us just simply say this as a prayer. Father God, for all of us, we ask this, God, that may you, the God whose mercies are new every morning, may you draw us into the freshness of change, into the excitement of something different, and into the opportunity that change makes to grow further for the gospel. We step into changes and all of the different feelings that we all might have about them. But God, help our motivation to be always set, that the reason we make these changes is so that we can continue to grow in the way that you have blessed us in the past. God, we want to make straight paths. So may you call us into the making of a straight path. May you set our feet strong that we might walk and not stumble. And perhaps all of us in our individual places, in our individual homes, perhaps we sit today with a moment to think about whether we want to make some changes in order to make a straight path for the gospel. As Joshua prayed so many years before and stood in front of your people Israel and said it, we ask it today that this would be our prayer, that we would say that as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So God, in your guidance, we trust and move in faith that you are guiding us well. And we believe that you're going to do incredible things beyond what we could even ask or imagine this year through the church. And amen. And amen. Thanks so much for being with us today. May God's grace and peace be with you.